Hello and welcome to Philosophy Vibe, the channel where we discuss and debate different philosophical ideas. Today we're going to be looking into the fascinating theory known as simulation theory. Excellent. Now, simulation theory is quite a new modern philosophy, loosely falling under philosophy of perception, knowledge of the external world, as well as philosophy of mind. Quite simply, simulation theory is the belief that the reality we live in, everything we perceive, is in fact a computer simulated world. The physical world we experience, everything around us, is nothing more than a virtual reality, and we are nothing more than conscious computer programs living in this simulated artificial reality. We are not physical beings living in a physical world, but we are closer to characters created in a video game. Although this is a modern theory come to be based on the technological evolution we have experienced in the last half-century and has been popularized by films such as The Matrix, simulation theory at its core is not exactly new. Some see resemblances with this theory to that of Plato's Allegory of the Cave or Descartes' Evil Demon. However, I would argue this is a modern version of George Berkeley's idealism, where he rejected the existence of the physical world and claimed reality was all mind-dependent ideas created and sustained by God. In this video, we are going to look closer into why one would adopt simulation theory as a belief, and also look at the challenges and flaws of the theory. Great, let's begin. Very well. So then, simulation theory was made prominent by the philosopher Nick Bostrom. Bostrom takes note of the technological advances we have made over the years and how much we have progressed in such a short space of time. Consider where computers were 50 years ago and what we can do now. Bostrom then thinks about how this technology will develop in the future. Think about what we can do now, and think about what humans will be able to do in, say, 100 years' time, or 500 years' time, or even 1,000 years' time. Given the trajectory we are on, it seems highly likely that if we stay on this technological path, future humans will have enormous computing power and will be in a position to create simulated realities where they can develop fully conscious alive computer programs to inhabit them. If we are confident humans will get to this position technologically, then they may very well use this technology to recreate the past in order to obtain data about human history. These future humans, some refer to as the post-human era, will have the technology to create simulated realities of the past with conscious computer programs living in them to see how their ancestors behaved and acted and how the actual events of history took place. Imagine running a simulated reality of ancient Rome with conscious programs to look at how certain events of history took place. The knowledge and data we would get from such exercises would be hugely valuable and fascinating and would help us answer a lot of questions. We already have certain AI programs now that help us recreate scenarios to analyze risks and benefits, so it seems logical and probable that this post-human race would do the same thing, only on a much larger scale. Fascinating. So based on the idea that humans will one day be in a position to create simulated realities of the past with conscious living programs, Bostrom posits three scenarios on this hypothesis known as the Trilemma, one of which would almost certainly be true. What are the Trilemma scenarios? The first is that humans will never actually reach the ability to create this highly sophisticated form of technology. The second is that humans will reach the ability to create this simulated reality, but they will choose just not to use it. And the third is that humans do reach this technological ability and actively use this computing power. Okay, so let's look at these three scenarios further. Scenario 1 is that humans never reach the ability to get this computing power. Given how much we've advanced in technology, the only reason Bostrom claims we would not reach the ability to create simulated realities is because the human race goes extinct before we develop this computing power. In scenario 2, humans do have this technology but choose not to use it. This would likely be down to ethical and moral laws put in place by future governments forbidding engineers from practicing simulated realities with conscious programs. And the third scenario is that humans do have this technology and regularly use it, creating simulated realities of their evolutionary history. Bostrom claims that out of the three scenarios, the third is the most likely. The human race will one day in the future have such immense and gigantic computing power that they would be able to run simulated realities with conscious programs and will likely use it to recreate history and learn about their ancestors. I see. Now, here is the interesting part. If we accept scenario 3 as the most likely, it then follows that there would of course only be one base reality, the original reality in which the computing power has been developed. It also follows that from this computing power there would likely be millions if not billions of simulated realities to emerge. Given one base reality versus billions of simulated realities, the odds then become 1 in a billion that we live in the base reality, meaning it is highly likely that the reality you are in is in fact a simulation and not the base reality. It is more likely that you right now are a computer program in a simulated world that has been created by this post-human race to monitor and learn from this specific period in history. Everything around you, everything you see, everyone you know, everything you know is just a simulated reality. You are a computer program in a supercomputer being monitored by a post-human species. This is the most likely truth. This is the most probable fact about our reality. As such, we must accept it is highly probable that life is a simulation, and so we have simulation theory. A mind-blowing theory for sure, and yes, I can see clear similarities between this and Berkeley's idealism. We have just replaced God with post-humans, but the essence of the philosophy is still the same. Indeed. However, I do want to challenge the trilemma conclusion. Go ahead. I would argue that scenario 1 or 2 would be the most probable and not scenario 3, and as such, this would render simulation theory highly unlikely. Really? Yes, so scenario 1 is definitely more probable than scenario 3. The chance that the humans do not reach the supercomputer technology. Bostrom puts this down to the extinction of the human race. This is quite likely. We have seen the damage to our world in a short space of time. We can see the problems with climate change and how this planet is quickly becoming uninhabitable for human beings. I would say that the human race going extinct before we reach this ability to simulate realities is more likely. I would have to disagree with this point. Just think about how far we have come with technology in such a short space of time. Think about the video games of the 1980s and compare them with today. That is just 40 years. Think about the recent breakthroughs in AI. If the trajectory stays the same, then simulated realities are not that far away, and definitely not further away than human extinction. Okay, fine, we'll leave that there, but Bostrom assumes scenario 1 is only down to human extinction, and so you are assuming the technological trajectory will stay the same. It can be argued that this type of simulated reality is actually impossible. We cannot physically create a computer conscious program with free will and free thought. No matter how great our computing power is, this is just something that cannot be done. I do not think that that's likely, and I actually think it's quite a narrow-minded view. Imagine explaining to someone in 1920 about the smartphone and the internet. They would probably not really understand it or think you were crazy to imagine humans with that sort of technology. But lo and behold, this is everyday technology that a child can operate. This is the same thing, and I think it is far more likely that humans will make these breakthroughs than not. Fine then, I would say scenario 2 is the most likely. Why would a post-human race of technological gods really need to recreate their ancestral history? Given so many things are so well recorded, especially since the 20th century, it seems like a lot of work for not much reason. Again, I have to disagree with this point. Being able to recreate ancient history as well as run simulated experiments on a human race is hugely valuable. We learn from our ancestors, we learn from history, and what better way to learn than to actually recreate the environment? You have to also remember that these simulated realities do not just have to come from top scientists. Much like now, we have teenagers using a smartphone to access information for schoolwork, a simulated reality could just be a teenager doing a history report or a sociology report and using the sim world as research. But why would someone create a simulated reality where the experimental conscious programs are aware of simulation theory and are questioning their very existence? Surely this would ruin the data. The point of a simulation is to get accurate data as to how humans would behave. Why bother programming the ability for the programs to question their existence and subsequently affect their interactions and behaviors? I would argue that if the programs are conscious, then they would reach these theories through their own thoughts. Furthermore, this particular simulation theory has only come about in the modern age based on our advances in technology. This then is a product of our specific environment, so if these post-humans are creating this day and age, then in order to be as accurate as possible, it must be possible for the programs to think up and ponder simulation theory. I would also argue that if we really think about our reality and some of the things we have seen, experienced or heard about, it further strengthens the argument that we live in a simulation. In what way? I want us to consider the idea of glitches in the simulation. Weird things or experiences that would only be explained by problems with the technology. Consider things like deja vu. People always talk about this or experience this. How else could this be explained other than a glitch in the simulation where a simulation is getting rerun and the program still retains the original memories? Or how about the Mandela effect, where groups of people all seem to share the same false belief about a specific event? This was coined based on the fact that so many people in the 1980s truly believed that Nelson Mandela died in prison. But there are so many examples of this, and this is such a common phenomenon. I am absolutely certain, 100% certain, that I saw a film as a child called Shazam starring Sinbad. It turns out this film never existed. I am absolutely certain that when I watched Snow White the film, the classic line was "Mirror, mirror on the wall." Again, apparently this is false. This and all other Mandela effects can be easily explained by glitches in the simulation. One simulation my program was in experienced this. It may have been rerun or recreated, but my program still retains the data of the other simulation. I see. Other than deja vu or Mandela effects, we have always heard stories about ghosts and spirits, vampires and werewolves, Bigfoot, mermaids, aliens, dragons and demons. People swear by these experiences. How can so many people have so many false beliefs? The only reasonable explanation, once again, is a glitch in the simulation, further strengthening simulation theory. I think that is quite a leap there. I do not want to get into a debate on deja vu or Mandela effects, but there are scientific explanations to each of these. To immediately conclude that the experience of deja vu or Mandela effect is proof of simulation theory is a mistake. Not proof, just the most likely explanation. I have to disagree. Very well. Furthermore, there are additional challenges to simulation theory that I want to raise. Go ahead. The first is a sort of third-man argument used for Plato's theory of forms, but I think it can be developed and used for simulation theory. In essence, any reality that is experienced will always be questioned as to whether it is a simulation. So right now, you can argue that this is a simulation, and suppose if it was, it would mean there is another reality that has created this simulation. But then in that reality it can be questioned if that is a simulation, and if it is, then there is another reality that has created that simulation, and in that reality it can be questioned if that is a simulation, and so on ad infinitum. Essentially, even if you are in the base reality, the original reality, you would never know, as you could always question whether it is a simulation. I see. Occam's razor would then try to find the simplest solution. Ultimately, an infinite amount of simulated realities going on forever is ludicrously complex. The simplest solution is that this is the only reality, this is the base reality, and we are not in a simulation. And the last point I would like to raise is around philosophy of mind. Simulation theory takes a functionalist position to the philosophy of mind, seeing the human mind as nothing more than a computer with computational structures. All our thoughts, desires, emotions, free thought, sense data, etc. is nothing more than computational processes and can be replicated in a virtual way. This version of functionalism is so extreme that it doesn't even need the human body for conscious minds to exist. It almost feels like dualism, where the mind can exist outside the body, but not quite, as it still needs the presence of silicon-based processes. Right. My point is, it is by no means evident that functionalism is the right approach to the philosophy of mind. It is highly debatable whether true conscious experience is nothing more than computational processes. Our conscious experience feels so much more than just input-output of processes. Our free thought and free will, our self-awareness, our sensory experiences, our intuitions and understanding is more than this. As such, I do not think we could physically create simulated realities where someone like me, who has this level of consciousness, is nothing more than a program. I am not saying we cannot recreate a program that behaves like a human or imitates human experiences. I am saying that this is not really alive. This program is not truly conscious. You cannot therefore convince me with my level of thought and understanding and consciousness that I am just a computer program. To me, it is no different than you trying to convince me of your solipsism and that I am just a character in your dream. Interesting argument. Although simulation theory is quite cool, there are far too many assumptions around the philosophy of mind and the hard problem of consciousness that really need to be addressed before this theory can stand on its own. Good point. If you would like the script to this video and you would like to help support the channel, then please check out the Philosophy Vibe Philosophy of Perception ebook available on Amazon. This script is also included in the Philosophy Vibe paperback Metaphysics Anthology, also available on Amazon. Links are below, and thank you to everyone who has purchased our books and supported us so far. We really appreciate it. But that's all the time we have for now. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the vibe. And what does everyone else think of simulation theory? Are we just Sims living in a computer program? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share. And for more philosophical debates, please subscribe to the channel. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye bye.